Hey everyone, welcome back to Paper Therapy with Amy. You can see I have fresh air on my desk here. That is a paper pack from way back in 2018. And I have some perfect photos for this paper pack. It's kind of misty mountain photos because this is a hot spring called Halfway Hot Springs in British Columbia. So I'll tell you a bit more about that later on in the video, but this is what I'm going to be working with today. And I've got my Versa mats, all set up here. So let me bring those in. And this is a paper from a mix-in paper pack that was right at the end of Close to My Heart. I don't know if it's going to focus, but you can see there's all little dots. Oh, I think you can see it now. There's all little dots on there. So it's not quite a white background, but very close to white. I've been trying to work with shading the sun from shining in here, but this is the best I can do. So hopefully that's not bothering you too much. All right, I've laid my photos out here the way I think I want them, but I think I'm gonna bring them down close to the bottom of the page. And I'm gonna make an inner frame like this, have it laid out with a outline on the outside. And I'm gonna add in some mats, some photo mats. So let's see how that looks. These should be, I cut these to size. These photo mats are the dark side of pine and glacier paper from my Close to My Heart stash. And they are cut about 1/4 inch bigger than the photos that they are going underneath. The photos are various sizes, but the two top right ones are about a 4x6. I really want to use this. So I feel like if I put it here and leave this frame around the outside, then I'll have kind of the trees going across behind us like we're part of the scene. So I'm going to cut this one down to go in here, I believe. And then I have this one here. I'm going to cut some strips from this one here to kind of cap the top and the bottom of this. So let's try that. I found this little piece as well. So let's see. I would trim it down so it's the same height as everything else is here. Possibly tuck it under a little ways. Just a little bit on this side to kind of finish that frame off. Let's go like this. And this. Where are we going to come out to? Let's go to 2 inches. So if I'm going to 2 inches here, I need to be able to visualize this in here. So I can try and tuck it under before I cut it, just to give me a view of what it would look like. Bring this to the end of here. I think it would come in a little bit more yet. I want this white to be the same as this white. Like I want it to be even all the way around. So I would have to figure out how wide this is going to be and try to make this the same width, which I think is going to be about 2 inches the whole way. So that would just mean tucking this under here a bit more. But I think I'm comfortable with it, so I'm going to commit to that. I'm going to cut this out. And I'm going to glue these down, and then I'll be back. So I'm done this far. As far as pattern paper goes, this is quite a simple layout. It's a great layout for if you have a paper with a scene on it. So I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to have some decorations coming up here too. Seeing this gap here kind of made me wonder if I should pull this out. See, I haven't cut it yet because I wanted to show you. Like you could go straight across. Say you only had one sheet of this and a little strip, then really you could go right across and it would just be a 3-sided frame. I do want to have some white on this side, and I think I want it to be at least the same width as the other side, which was about 2.5, I think. Because I was to about... Oh, it's about 2 here. I went a little farther in here. So let's see, 2.5 would be here. I can tuck that underneath here so we can see it a little bit better. This side's glued down. Just wasn't sure. I wanted to show you the different options for this side. Yeah, this has to overlap just slightly to get that correct. So if I did 2.5, I could, don't forget, I've got a gap between the pages now, but it would be covered. So I could leave a small gap there just to have the scene keep going a little bit more. Or I could have brought this all, I've cut these now, but I could have brought this all the way out and had a little bit here as well if I wanted to. So those are some things for me to think about, but I think what I would like is, yeah, possibly 2.5 here, and then if I come right to the edge, then I don't have to, then I can save some of this paper too. Not that it matters. This paper is so old, it's time to use it. I used these two thin cuts, this one and this one. And they are the Frosted Forest from Stampin' Up! Thin cuts. I only got the thin cuts. I didn't love the stamp, but I really like the thin cuts, so I went for just the thin cuts. I'm cutting them out of this paper to give them some texture. That paper reminded me of evergreens. So let's see. I've kind of prepared all my embellishments here. I was at a crafting retreat, so I had time to kind of prepare a page to film. I didn't have filming equipment, or I just didn't think I could film it there. So, and I kind of wanted to use these to kind of continue these trees off onto my border, like pretend that they keep going. So even up here. And this one I just cut, it's one of these, I just cut it a little bit shorter, and then I have a couple of these other ones, which I'm not sure if I should put it behind. Possibly overlap this a bit more. My goal here was to continue that scene that's in the patterned paper onto the border, and that would be my embellishment clusters. I was really struggling with this smaller tree because it's made a little bit differently and doesn't have that distinct stem in the middle, and it was easy for me to create shorter trees with the long tree because I could just snip them down on that stem. So I ended up not using that smaller tree and just cutting more of the larger tree. And I cut some of the larger tree out of plain pine cardstock, and that really helped as well because it gave some differentiation between the trees of the pattern paper and the trees of the pine paper. You can see here that I'm kind of struggling with that little tree. It just doesn't, it's not working for me. It's too busy with all the layers and the way it's kind of made differently. As the day was progressing in my craft room, now that it's winter and the sun is lower in the sky, it really shines into my craft room, and I'm not always, I like having so much light on my work for working on it, so I'm not always totally aware of the way it's moving across the room, and whatever I'm using to sort of shade my work area ends up not shading my work area as the sun moves. So this little escape thingy here, I created that myself from one of the pocket cards that I cut. That back in the day, close to my heart, one of the sheets had all pocket cards. So I cut the pocket cards apart, and this one here, I've kind of tried to cut a circle partially around it with a circle die. I was careful to kind of hang it off the edge of the die machine, and then I just free-handed the little banners going either direction. I do end up keeping this little escape on the page, but I do end up taking off that white paper in the background. Circles always make a nice base for layering, and I really liked this white circle. I had it pre-cut already from a card I was making. I had cut out a circle from the wood grain in the card, and this was on the back side. It was a darker wood grain on the other side. So then I decided to cut another circle from this blue paper, which is also from the paper pack, and I have a little bit of it on the left side as a banner. So I thought I'll just put a little at the top as a banner as well. And I also am going to use that little piece of toffee or beige paper. It's a zip strip, and I thought it worked well with this layout as well. The Relax and Renew on the far right is cut into strips from a pocket card also. So that cut apart sheet that was all pocket cards, I used 2 of those pocket cards on this layout. So a little about these photos. They were taken at Halfway Hot Springs in British Columbia. This was on a road trip to visit somebody that we know in British Columbia, and It was a couple of summers ago, and they weren't going to be ready for us until supper time, and we would have been at their house in 2.5 hours. So we decided to take a roundabout route. We ended up taking 2 ferries, one across a lake and one across a river, and halfway, ironically, halfway through the route, although it's called Halfway Hot Springs because it's halfway on a highway. You do have to turn off the highway onto this forestry trunk road, which in Canada, that means it's a gravel, old forestry logging road. And they're well graveled, but it is a long drive on gravel usually. And we came to this spot on our GPS map. There was a very small sign and a path going down into the forest. And so we had an adventure and we took that path and we ended up here at this hot springs. Now there is a pump that pumps the hot spring water into these pools, but these pools are very natural. They're just kind of made of rocks in a circle. Once in a while they drain them and use a pressure washer, which they were doing to the middle one at this time. But yeah, that's just how it is there. And then in the photo with my husband and I leaning against the rocks, that's where the spot where it actually comes right out of the mountain. And where that water comes out of the mountain, I dipped my toe in and literally I burnt myself. I thought it is so hot that when we were leaning there for that picture, our feet were like getting too hot. And we said, okay, hurry up, take the picture. We have to get out of here. So, and in that spot, people have made their own little rock pools, but this water is pumped to the other spot so that you can sit in rock pools with little seats. So it was pretty fun. The boys were a little grumbly about walking down all the way down there. But once we got down there, we were sitting in it. I think they thought it was pretty cool. I did decide to rub a little bit of ink on each of these trees with the sponge just to give them a little more definition. And this is where I swapped out some of the trees for just plain pine cardstock rather than that patterned paper that I cut most of them from. And the one in the center on the left-hand side, I actually glued 2 layers together so that it would be a little bit more pronounced and sit up. They're too small to put dimensionals behind, so that's why I decided to just do 2 layers to make that tree seem a little bit more substantial. So it's kind of like it's in the foreground. Another thing I thought would look really nice on this layout because of the white background was a little bit of ink blending in behind the trees. So before I glued them down, I actually remembered to blend a little bit of glacier ink in behind each embellishment cluster. And I really think that looks pretty. And I also think it really adds to the continuation of the scene going off the paper with the scene on it onto my frame on my page. So I used the very fine tip on the Barely Art glue to glue these little ones down, and I glued the 2 farther apart from each other first. And then you're going to see me gluing those 2 layers together with the Barely Art glue, which was kind of a finicky thing to do, but I managed to do it. You do have a little bit of time when it's this small amounts of glue. It does dry pretty quick, but you have a little bit of a time to slide them into place, and it worked for me. Another way I could have done it was to glue the pieces together first and then run them through the die cutting machine, but it is quite an intricate die, and sometimes it takes a bit for it to come apart. So you might, if you do it that way, you might want to run it through several times or have some dryer sheets tucked in between so that it comes loose easily. For this small embellishment cluster here at the top, I did just cut the tree down a little bit and then put it in position. And here I'm just trimming off the top of that circle. So that is the layout pretty well done. So here is the finished layout. I did make a few changes. I took the white that I had behind here off and I like it so much better. That white was really bothering me. I added some wood grain and some sentiments and stamped Halfway Hot Springs. That's the name of the hot springs. It's also right here, but it's hard to see. And wood grain and sentiment here. And this one I had already, but I added a little bit of wood grain here. I put a little wash of, with the blending brush, I just added a little wash of Glacier in behind each of these embellishment clusters. And that's pretty well all. I'll give you a close-up of that. So the only Stampin' Up! Items on this layout is actually this paper here, this wood grain paper, and this, these are the Frosted Forest dies. And everything else is from my stash. Get a look at this one here. So I do really love how this layout turned out. We do a lot of hiking. If you would like to see any other layouts with hiking on them, I'll post it at the end of this video. It'll show up on this screen if you just give it a second here. And there's also a picture of me. If you click on that picture, you can subscribe to my channel. And if you loved this video and you haven't done it yet, hit that thumbs up button. It's just right down here and it really helps me out on YouTube. Thanks again so much for watching and spending time with me, and I'll catch you guys all next time. Bye.